Hey, friends, it is happening. It's happening here in South Florida. It's happening in Southern California. It's happening in Nebraska. It is happening in Hawaii. And I want to know if it's happening where you are. And we're talking about weird weather across America. Maybe you're like me and you kind of like to look at your weather tracker on your phone. Maybe the weather is tracking me. Who knows? And being from Southern California, I'm always curious to see what the weather is like now that I'm here in South Florida. And I was thrown for a loop when I found out that in areas that are usually really mild, like Malibu, sort of the area between Los Angeles and Ventura, basically there's a heat wave going on and they're calling it unprecedented. You know how like they like that phrase. And I want to hear from you. Where are you? And are you having weird weather where you are? And we're going to be looking at the money. Always comes down to following the money. So let's take a look at that, shall we? But first, let's take a look at all of this strange weather that is happening. As I say, California basically record-breaking heat that would be record-breaking in the summer is happening in the winter. We're going to look at how this is all tied together. Nebraska, the wildfires that are unprecedented. We've got the flooding in Hawaii, South Florida, rainy and cold in March. That's unusual. But hey, maybe the part-timers are going to head home, so it won't be as crowded. So we have that to look forward to. But when you start digging into it, you're like, okay, what's going on here? And I think you know, and I know as well. Let me share my screen. We're going to go back and forth a little bit here because these weather maps and images are getting weirder and weirder. Now, I really love these colors, the fuchsia, the orange, the yellow, but I have never seen anything like this. I mean, this is like a whole new type of graphic that they have. And of course, they have all sorts of new weather words as well. So let me know where you are, what is happening with the weather where you are, and have you noticed anything going on in the skies previously? Inquiring minds want to know. So we've got headlines here from California, 110 degrees, forecast warns of record-setting March heat wave. Heat wave shatters records across Southern California. California heat wave makes winter feel like summer, and on it goes. So we're going to be, I made a couple notes here to stay on track. But as I say, it's not just isolated, and the powers that shouldn't be want to blame this on, how does the saying go? Global swarming. But we've got, by we, I mean my family and friends in Southern California have the extreme heat, and then there are the wildfires, the rain, blizzards, and like, is this random? Well, my healthy Americans know that it isn't. And we're going to talk about who is behind these weather modification programs, because it's a real thing. You know it, and I know it. And what I wanted to do was actually share with you a couple of more headlines, because this is just so blatant, they don't even hide it anymore. So take a look at this. We've got blistering early season heat threatens California and other Western states. Records could be smashed in Southern California as experts warn weather set to be exceptional and not in a good way. Here's the headlines. Here's the story. States across the U.S. West are bracing for a brutal early season heat wave, threatening to cook several cities throughout the weekend and into next week. I'm just going to skim through this. Daily records could be shattered in Southern California this week, right? This is an article that just came out following the warmest winter on record across most of the region. The intense conditions are expected to eat into low snowpack levels, deepening drought concerns. That's always the key word, because that's how they can control us. So another, they're calling it the persistent dome of pressure. That sounds like kind of like a ride at Disneyland. The dome of pressure, the heat dome. Let me know these weird weather words that you've been hearing. I did a video about this. Oh my gosh, it had to be a year or two ago when we had the extreme snowfall in California. And all of that is manufactured, friends. In fact, I want to read to you a couple of the notes that I took from a previous video that I did. And then we'll get back into talking about what's going on in Nebraska, what's going on in Florida, and what's going on in Hawaii. But I just wanted to remind everybody that these records are being set, and wildfires are out of control. Flooding is happening in Florida. They're in Hawaii. Flooding is happening in Florida. I'm going to show you that image in just a moment. But I just want to give you a quick review about these companies that are running the weather modification programs, and then we'll get back to the headlines, because people just want to say, well, it's just an anomaly. Yeah, an anomaly means that it doesn't happen. We are having, last week, we had higher than normal heat in Florida. Now we're having rainier than normal weather. And you may say that's just the normal weather patterns. And perhaps it is. I wasn't around 100 years ago. But there's a company called Weather Modification, Inc. It is one of the oldest operators in the world. There's North American weather consultants. There's RHS Consulting. They provide the weather modification services as well. Meteo, METEO Systems. I was going to get all these websites up for you. Didn't have a chance. But these companies, so it's on the books, okay? They own weather patents. The United States government itself did their operations for, oh my gosh, I had that in a previous video. I'll have to link that up for you, because I did a deep dive all about steering hurricanes and cloud seeding into hurricanes in order to reduce the power. But you know, and I know that the opposite happens. So the cloud seeding programs is what the layman understands about weather modification, but there's more. And I'm going to show you the who's at the top of the pyramid, because they like pyramids, at the end of the broadcast. Who is putting the money behind it? Drop a comment and let me know. Give me a couple of names that you think of the people that are behind the money for these solar radiation management programs. And they give all sorts of fancy names like geoengineering. But the fact is, in fact, let me get this other bit of info for you. The fact is, these programs that they're doing, it's not just isolated into one area. So what happens in one part of the United States definitely affects another part of the United States. And that's why I believe that we are seeing all of this weird weather kind of at once, the weird weather across America. So here are some of the kind of the info I wanted to bring you. Let's go to some of the images here. Okay. And then I'll take a look at your comments and see what in the heck is going on where you are. So here we've got a high likelihood for historic heat. Some in California, some records might be broken for 7 to 10 days consecutively, possibly up to 110 degrees. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. And also up to 90 degrees in the Bay Area. And of course, the Bay Area is known for being very, very cold. Let's turn our attention for a moment to Nebraska, and then we'll talk about how all this kind of ties together. So my heart goes out to those that are victims of this inflicted weather, I believe it to be. I have not had a chance to go through all of the forensics of what's going on in Nebraska, and probably we don't need to, because I believe it's the same playbook. So here we've got headlines today. It's called IQ Air. Very interesting. Wildfire map spotlight, Cottonwood Fire, Nebraska. Let me know if you're from there or if you have any people that you know that are there. As of March 18th, the Cottonwood Fire is an active wildfire burning across Dawson, Lincoln, and frontier regions in the state of Nebraska. There is more than just this fire burning close to 1,000 acres. I don't know about you, but I don't associate Nebraska with wildfires. We're told that there were drought conditions. So let's see. Hotter than normal in California. Drought conditions in Nebraska. We were told in Florida that we are in a drought as well. even though it's pouring rain and there's floods. Speaking of flooding, let's take a look at what they're calling the Kona storm. And this is here. So sad that people are being flooded out of house and home in Hawaii. This rare Kona storm brings chaos and flooding to Hawaii. They certainly love that word chaos, because what comes out of chaos? Order out of chaos. People will say, Peggy, why do you believe this is manufactured? Well, look at the checklist of the bad guys. What they want to do is they want to flood people out of their homes. They want to burn people out of their homes. They want to create conditions such as in California, where we're told that people are going to, let's see, this pressure dome, they're not going to be able to pay for their cooling. And so electric rates will go higher. When people are experiencing the aftermath of wildfires and flooding, what happens there? Their insurance rates go up. Maybe they can't rebuild. Maybe the government is going to say that now these areas are toxic and people are still trying to rebuild in Southern California. That was just over a year ago with the Pacific Palisades fire and all of those in Southern California. And what's happening? More restrictions on building. It has to be green, at least in California. There are all sorts of building code hoops that people have to jump through. The insurance companies, of course, are jacking up their rates. And we are also seeing the intrusion of the federal government growing larger and larger and sticking their big fat nose in people's business. You may say, Peggy, I need those FEMA funds. Well, there probably is a good time and place for that, but you can't ignore that all of these disasters, whether they're natural or whether they're not, you can't ignore the fact that more people are going to be dependent on the government. They're going to be upset in their everyday routines. There's going to be a great emotional fallout for all of this. Small businesses are going to be hit. They're either going to be burnt, they're going to be flooded, or the people that owned them can't work at them because they're trying to get their lives together. So whenever people say, well, why would they do this? I turn the question around to my Healthy American audience. Let me know in a comment, why would they do this? I gave you a laundry list right there, and that doesn't even touch the part about global swarming. So let's go on, shall we? Because that is another of the justifications or the reasons that were given for these events. And when we're told that it's because you are drinking out of a plastic straw and you are driving a gas guzzling car, you're the one that's causing all of these problems. That's the narrative. Now let's turn our attention to South Florida, where I am right now. And heavy rain in South Florida. And you may say, Peggy, of course it rains in Florida. It's tropical. And they have these images here that are supposed to like get your blood pressure rising. Doesn't it? I'm sure somebody could analyze this and tell me. I mean, does it look like that's a person's head and he's playing bongo drums or something? This is a monster with his mouth open. I mean, I don't want to be psychoanalyzed or anything, but you have to say she's even wearing the red dress to kind of coordinate with this image. That's how I sees it, folks. So here in Florida, it normally, this time of the year, we don't have flooding. This is when all of the people come for their spring break. And so we normally don't see this kind of thing here in South Florida. And I, for one, am grateful that we have rain, especially since we had the worst, it's called a hard freeze. And it was devastating here. The images that what you see just driving around, it looks like it was a burn zone. Beautiful, lush landscaping it just shriveled up and died because of the frostbite. I'm actually having to replant in my area as well because my poor plants just can't handle under 30 degrees. And so the hard frost it's something that hit pretty much all of Florida, except for the furthest south, maybe Fort Lauderdale south, and the nurseries were hit. So think again, the economic impact of these weather events where the small businesses get hit. Even if you wanted to put in new landscaping, where are you going to get the plants? Oh, I know. You can get them from a greenhouse. And what's pumped into a greenhouse to increase yield? Anybody? Yes, that's absolutely right. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the molecule of life. And that's a perfect transition into the next part of this broadcast, because the powers that shouldn't be, in fact, there's a handful of billionaires that are putting their money toward manipulating the weather. And carbon is the molecule of life. You and I are made out of carbon. You and I are the carbon that they want to reduce. So we'll take a look at that. But it's sad to me to see that this weather is having an impact. In fact, before we look at the billionaires, I wanted to look at a couple of my notes, because I really took some time to research this. And I wanted to tell you that weather in one area definitely affects weather in another area. And that's why the powers that shouldn't be kind of do like double whammies. So if they've got whatever manipulation they were doing in Hawaii, for example, or maybe they started it on the East Coast, but normally the weather moves from west to east, as I understand it. I'm not a meteorologist, not that I would trust them, but if they're on TV and they have a really heartbeat inducing graphic, then maybe we should. But again, tell me what is going on with your weather, because we know that there's weather modification. It happens in every day. I mean, in our daily occurrences, it's not like it was just once in a while. They're trying to increase snowpack. They're trying to increase rainfall. We're told that they're trying to reduce hail damage to crops. Well, excuse my French, but hail, no, because you know what's going on. The hail is getting worse and it's larger and it's causing more damage. At least that's what all y'all are telling me. And you've taken pictures of it and you've kind of dissected it. And you said, this is not normal. So we're seeing the flooding, the fires, the droughts. We're seeing the landslides. And what happens next? The power outages, the increase in electricity rates, the increase in insurance rates, and on it goes. So Hawaii getting absolutely drenched, Florida getting absolutely drenched. And let's take a look now and see who exactly is behind this. And I'll just call them the trio, the billionaire trio. And I want to see, am I sharing my screen? I don't think I am, but let's take a look at some of your comments. Who do you think is in this billionaire trio? Jenny says it's very hot in Northern California. Jay says constant chemtrails over Boston. So friends, you know what's going on with the spraying in the skies. And I'm going to show you, it's not a myth. It's not it's a controversy, but it's not a conspiracy. So they're spraying aluminum, they're spraying silver iodide, they're spraying barium, they're spraying all kinds of things that we should not be breathing in. And that the plants, I think that's part of the reason we had that cold frost in Florida. And I think they did a lot of spraying prior to that. The plants were not hardy enough to withstand it. So yes, I believe that all of that is tied in. Beverly said in the 70s last week, then snow, then down to 19 degrees. I'm sick with sinus inflammation. That's what was so weird on the phone. So I was researching this. It's like, is it normal for there to be a swing of degrees between, like, it was a low of 57 in California and then a high of 95, like within the same couple of hours? Okay, that's bizarre to me. And it's bizarre to a lot of you. Strato says, hail the size of golf balls came down on a hot day in Pensacola, Florida. Hail, no, that's crazy. Yes, Gnosis says it's a conspiracy, but not a theory. High says it's constant spraying over New York City as well. And Underwaterman says, I'm really concerned about them starting wildfires in the OC with this heat. I can't afford the insurance anymore. I hear you. We are in the same boat, literally. That is part of the reason that we wanted to leave Southern California. I don't know about you. I was having nightmares. I'm going to get to the trio in just a second, but your comments are riveting. I was having nightmares in California because the fires were literally surrounding us. And that causes a type of trauma. And it's very, very difficult to overcome that in your daily life. You see a little plume of smoke, you smell smoke in the air. That happens here in Florida. My husband and I were smelling smoke in the air, and they do what's called controlled burns. We are right on the edge of an Atlantic preserve, which means there's not a lot of houses around, but there is a lot of vegetation. And so what they do in Florida is they burn that out from time to time so that it's not uncontrollable. Now, as I say, we do get a lot of rain, and I, for one, I don't know, it's like that game. Would you rather be flooded out or burned out? I don't know. I kind of would take my chances in a flood in a way. I don't even want to choose between the two, but we have had nonstop rain here in Florida. Grateful for it. I don't want to have the drought conditions either. Okay, Jay also said no more insects, bugs, or critters. No more moths covering the lights. I've got to do an entire new investigation on that, friends, in an upcoming broadcast, because I've mentioned that in the past. I never see bugs on the windshield. Heck, I don't even see them in the dirt. After rain, you normally would see those little curly bugs, and you would see worms, and you would see all kinds of things. Now you hardly ever see that. It is so distressing for me. Insight says, I appreciate your channel, Peggy. I appreciate you being on board. Beverly says, fear, they want to keep us afraid. I don't want to put you in the spin cycle on this. I am bringing it up because I want to hear from you, and I want to share with you some facts. So let's do that. I don't know if I saw anybody's trio. You might have mentioned it and I didn't see it. So let's do this. We're going to go. I think you can guess who's at the top. I'm going to call it the pyramid because they love their pyramids. Guess who's at the top of the solar radiation management? Yes, that's the politically correct. Spraying in the skies, your friend and not mine, Granny Gates. Oh, you can just do a search for the headlines, and you'll see this pops up again and again. And what he's got going on, he has given millions, probably billions at this point, to Harvard. I've done deep dives on this. I'll have to do a replay. I think I'll do a replay for you tomorrow on some of my weather videos because you might have missed that. So Bill Gates, and number 2, Jeff Bezos. Yes, you tell me which is the man in this picture. Sorry, friends. I like to have a little snark here. I mean, we are midweek. But did you know all about what Jeff Bezos has going on? Oh, this is it. It's called the Bezos Earth Fund, a path to swiftly. Now, check out that word swiftly. That is one of those key words for me. They are always using the word swift, the swift banking. They have the swift response. There was the swift boat. That was a controversy with John Kerry. So this word here is done intentionally. I don't know exactly why and how and what they mean by that word, but I do know that it is cluing me in that he is, well, obviously Jeff Bezos is not your friend or mine. He is doing the greenhouse gas removal initiative. Let's just camp out on this for a moment. Oh, and by the way, doesn't Bezos live in Florida? I mean, in Hawaii. Well, he probably lives in Florida too. These billionaires have houses everywhere. And I wonder if his house was affected by the floods in Hawaii, is what I meant to say. I think that Bezos owns islands and all of that. So you tell me. I know that he's a hotshot over there, so to speak. And here's what he wants to do. I mean, this is absolutely cray. Do I have this? Did I even, let me see. I made some notes. Okay. He wants to focus on carbon removal. And he's got a project that he calls climate modeling. They come up with all these weird names. It's basically geoengineering. So let's take a look at his program again. This is what is so bizarre to me. This is literally, they want to take away your air. They want to take air out of the air and put it underground. Greenhouse gas removal initiative. This requires its own deep dive investigation in a separate video. But what they want to do, here it is, greenhouse emissions must be reduced swiftly. Do you see that? They want to remove carbon from the air. Okay. Cray. Who's the third in this triad? There it is. Your friend and not mine, Ellen Mushwell. I like to have a little fun with the nicknames here, friends. He also wants to have carbon, the molecule of life, taken out of the air. I don't even want to look at his face, actually, but let's see what I dug up on this fella. Well, you know that he was doging all of the federal agencies. You might be applauding that. I, for one, was not, because he was getting rid of the very agencies that were investigating Musk for all of the violations and the fraud and other issues that he was involved in. There were several active investigations against him, and he got rid of all of the inspector generals, which means all of those investigations were shut down. They were shut down against Tesla, shut down against, because he had violations for labor. I've covered this in great detail. And if you're interested, I've got a Elon Musk, I think I have it titled Musk playlist if you want to go back and see that. So basically, Tesla and SpaceX are only viable because of taxpayer dollars and the money that they print out of thin air. So he wants to take your money and the funny money. I think that's what I'm going to call it. He wants to take that funny money that the government has given him, and he wants to remove carbon from the air. They call it direct air capture. That's the phrase. They want to take air out of the air. How do you like them apples? And he's got a 100 million prize competition that he wants. I doubt he's ever going to give that money to anybody, to encourage the development of technologies that remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Friends, carbon is the molecule of life. So let's take a look at his program here. And I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. The carbon they want to remove is you. We are made of carbon. This is it. The X Prize carbon removal, tracking humanity's greatest threat. Well, it's pretty close here, because under the headline, it says Musk. So yes, I would say humanity's greatest threat possibly could be Elon Musk. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Humanity's greatest threat. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, I guess we can throw in that category. And also we can put in Granny Gates. I know some of you want me to throw in Bob Kennedy, although you are applauding that he is smacking the donuts out of people's hands, going to war against Duncan. I've got those videos for you as well. Friends, we talk about the headlines on this channel, and I want to hear from you. Is it weird where you are? And I bet that it is in terms of weather. And then let me know, do you want me to do a follow-up video on weather, more on weather modification, or do you want me to talk next about technology? So just put a comment, weather or technology. You know what? It's all connected, because take a look at what happened when I signed on to Zoom to get on this broadcast. Check this out. Oh, by the way, before I do that, if technology and AI and all of that is all that, then why is it that in places like California, Nebraska apparently now is the epicenter for wildfires, why couldn't AI have alerted the firefighters and the government? Why is it that we're being told by the public serpents that the fire season is going to be year round? And apparently across the United States, every state in the country now is going to be at a wildfire risk all year round. So why can't AI help with that? Why can't technology help with that? You're telling me now that 100 years after fires in California, we haven't gotten any better with technology to put them out, to track them, to put more money. Forget the money going to carbon capture. Why shouldn't the money go, because we need carbon, why shouldn't the money go toward these fire departments? Why are the firefighters told to stand down? Why are there no alarms going off? The emergency alarms. Why is there no fire in the fire hydrants? Why are trees not burning? And why is plastic not melting, but concrete is being decimated? Right? Non-flammable items are becoming dust. yet flammable items are standing? Yes, we've covered those questions a lot on this channel, and I will continue to ask them. And I think you already know the answer. But if we're talking about technology, take a look at what Zoom showed me as I hopped on this broadcast, which is a live broadcast, which is why I'm kind of rambling. And I know you don't mind. The lives go a little bit longer. We kind of go off topic a little bit, but check this out. This is what I was shown. Sign in faster with your face, fingerprint, or PIN. You got to be kidding me. Well, I already have a password. How is signing in with my face faster? How is signing in with my fingerprint? What do? I touch the screen? It doesn't even make sense. A PIN, a pass key. Oh, because passwords are so difficult. Oh, yes, it's so very difficult for me to put in a password. Yes, especially, I guess this is how it goes, right? So I do try to pay. I do try to do a lot of my banking. I do my banking in person, but I have capitulated a little bit, and a couple of things I pay online. So I pay my water bill online. I don't want to turn off my water, but I need to change that and have hubby write a check and mail it instead. Because here's what happens. I go online to the water utility company. I put in a password, right? On my password protected computer. So imagine this. Somebody's going to break into my house. They're going to get past my guard dog, Sandy. They're going, and my guard cat, Tab, he's a guard cat. You're going to get on my computer. You're going to hack through my password on my computer. Then you're going to go to my water, the utility company. You're going to input the password for that utility company. And then they want you to do a 2-step verification on the phone, because somebody's going to break into my house, hack into my computer, hack into my utility company because they want to pay my water bill. Well, I'll tell you what, if they can get through all the hoops, including my attack dog, or my guard dog, I should say, and my guard cat, they can pay my water bill. I'm fine with that. I mean, come on. I did a video for you on Monday about the frustration factor. I'm going to have to, that's a great title for a part 2. So let me know about your frustrations. And if you want me to do a second video on the frustration factor related to technology, this facial ID, the facial recognition, or if you want more on the weather. And what I want to talking about the weather and talking about what's all the spraying that's going on in the sky. I cannot stand the spraying that goes on when I'm at a community pool and they're spraying sunscreen. We're going to talk about that on Friday over at Living Swell. We leave the headlines behind, but do you know what is wrong with these spray sunscreens? I'm going to dive into that. We're going to talk about the chemicals. It's a controversy. It's not a conspiracy. And what is happening, I have to swim in a pool with people that are slathering their bodies with these cancer-causing chemicals, and they're spraying them in the air. So we're going to break that down in detail. I've got this investigative, sort of little twist on what I normally do over at Living Swell. So join me. That's Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And of course, I've got a Substack for this channel, which is peggyhall.substack.com. And here we do tackle the headlines. And then on Friday, we talk more about the solutions, right? Here, we're kind of highlighting the problems. We can commiserate over them. And I did do a video for you Monday, how to push back against the tyrants, what to look for, not to fall into their tangled web. But what I want to do now is finish out by looking at your comments. And oh my gosh, Beverly says, she's bringing up another issue, which is the killing of the livestock without owners having due process, processing plants getting burned. And people are concerned about that. Being Nessing says it's called clearing the farmlands. That's part of what's going on with this weather, looking for the patterns. The WEFers, as I call them, are definitely paying for that, as I just showed you. Lori says in West Central Minnesota, it was sunny, then cloud seeding, and then no more sunshine. The cloud was full of seeding. It's so gross. Let me know how that makes you feel. I get so depressed. That was part of the reason to come to Florida, because even though they spray here, there's often wind and rain, so it just doesn't stick around as much. But damage is being done. And I also believe that they spray at night when people can't see it. Yes, there are all sorts of places where we can notify the authorities, but I don't know if they're really doing anything about it. I think it is important to notify the authorities because we can at least alert people if they answer the phone or something. Boneless Rocker said they poured 65,000 liters of sodium hydroxide into the Gulf of Maine as a geoengineering trial a week ago. Ben says he controls the weather, controls the world. Celestial says the cold and hot and the cold and the hot happening. Someone in Kansas has 720 blueberry bushes. The flowers have started to bud. That's fantastic, I guess. I know it's still early. They do it to control us. Absolutely. Boneless said it's important that we loudly say no to any and all engineering projects. Absolutely. Okay, Darren has another one. Electric everything. That's definitely what they want to do. But think about it. I also know you want me to talk about the data centers. I definitely will do that because think about it. The water and the electricity are being diverted to these data centers. They want to put them right here in Florida, in South Florida. Let me know if they're putting them up in your backyard. That will be a topic for another day, but it's related because then your energy prices are going to go up. You're going to be paying for that and you're going to be rationed. Absolutely. I see that coming. So Jenny says she's in Northern California. It is hot. Okay. The spraying is consistent and daily. You know, friends, the conclusion that I'm drawing from your wonderful comments is that it is happening throughout the United States. L. Collins says the billionaire trio are gods in their own eyes. Pathetic. Gates is now experiencing spraying on their fields. I see. They're spraying on his fields because he owns a lot of the farmland as well. Crystal said 50-degree swing here within the same day. That's just, I don't remember that. Even as a young adult, I don't remember that. Friends, I'm going to be wrapping up here. Tammy says the aluminum is a desiccant, drying everything out. You are so right. I see dead trees everywhere. The small section of woods behind my house is full of dead trees that have fallen down. That is so heartbreaking. I literally feel, when I see the devastation and the destruction, that's another way that they traumatize us visually. So it's very, very troubling. Yes, Cindy says the carbon they want gone is you. And Louis was calling it carbon sequester. Yes, that's exactly what they want. And so let's just follow their logic for a moment. They're going to take carbon out of the air, I guess with pipes. They're going to pipe it underground. So that's okay for underground? Let's just go along with their scenario for a moment. What about all of the primary water? We have water underground that is filtered naturally, right? It rains, it should rain naturally, and then the rain falls, it goes into the earth, it's part of the hydrologic cycle, and you need rainfall to create rainfall, and it seeps down. So water is not wasted, it just is literally recycled. So I would be curious to find out how that is going to disrupt, probably causing more droughts. Just thinking off the top of my head right now. Okay, I'll take a look at your comments, friends. Wow, what a great live stream we've had. And Beverly says, people are always sick. Who knows? Food, air, water, it's all a toxic load. My friend, Dr. Chari, talks about that quite frequently, as a matter of fact. I'm going to have her back on the show, and she's always talking about ways that we can naturally detox because we are taking that in from the sky, from the water, and don't forget the electricity, right? The electromagnetic waves. Some people are very, very sensitive to that. I like how David On says it's weirdo weather everywhere. I think I need to change. I'm going to change the title of this video to weirdo weather everywhere. Thank you for that title. I've got the best audience on YouTube. Signing off now, friends. Rest my voice a little bit. I think I'll do a Throwback Thursday for you, a couple of videos about gates and these weird weather words that we have. Keep in mind when I do the Throwback Thursdays, those aired previously. So I might say, oh, we've been in the battle for 4 years. Well, it's been longer now. because they broadcast previously. I know you're smart enough to figure that out. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you for everybody who is also on the Substack. That's absolutely free, peggyhall.substack.com. And then put a yes or a no if you're going to join me on Friday when we talk about these other chemicals and how to avoid them over at Living Swell. Thanks, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you in